Welcome to Presente, a space and community that vibes on being in the moment, something we are relearning how to do in a fast-moving world.
We are excited to be part of a growing movement that talks about topics that we feel haven't been talked about in our Latin culture and womanhood.
Be present with us. Take a pause and break down societal norms.
Redefine the meaning of existing. Welcome to Presente, the podcast.
Hola! Welcome to episode 5 of Presente. Today, let's talk about how we may each go about expressing our love language to one another. Love connects us and unites us. It's a healing experience, and one that is a mix of emotions, like, for example, tears of joy. Join us as we discuss the 5 love languages brought to you by author Gary Chapman. He is a writer and a radio host. His book has helped people express and receive love using the 5 love languages. His book teaches us that we each have a type of love expression or a mixture of the 5 he wrote about in his book.
What is a love language? Our love language is how we express our love towards our relationships or friendships. It helps enhance our bond with others because we understand what our partners or our friends may need. We each speak different love dialects. There are 5 to be exact. 1, words of affirmation. 2, receiving gifts. 3, quality time. 4, acts of service. And 5, physical touch. You can find out your love language by taking an easy online quiz at 5lovelanguages.com.
The 5 love languages.
Words of affirmation. Your love language is about communicating in a heartfelt way. You like receiving compliments or gestures that make you feel good. In a partner, you seek someone who pays attention, notices what makes them feel appreciated or special. They need words of encouragement. You have to think before you speak to them. They do not like any negativity, unkind, or accusation type of talk.
Receiving gifts. Your partner appreciates receiving presents or gifts from you. They are touched and feel a special connection to the gifts that they receive. They also like to give gifts themselves, and they will pay attention to big or special events in the life you build together.
Quality time. Your love language is all about setting aside time for you and the people you love. Whether it's planning a date or a night of fun, less phone or screen time is with this type of love language. It's all about being in the moment with your partner or friends.
Acts of service. This love language is all about actionable energy. It's a don't tell me, show me sort of energy. You feel so loved when your partner takes out the trash or cleans up when you don't have to tell them to. You did those errands? Ooh la la.
Physical touch. Your love language is feeling connected through touch. Receiving affection and feeling close to your partner is a must. It could be holding hands, kissing, hugging, or sex.
So now we're going to dive in a little deeper and talk about our online results on the love languages quiz. I scored higher on acts of service. For me, this love language is very true, and it reflects a lot on when my partner cooks. When he makes that white rice and the Dominican beans, he knows I light up inside. It's funny because I make that Puss in Boots face, from Shrek, just to get those beans or some mango. I literally make a face. I'm like, please. It's acts like this, that make my heart soar. In the beginning, these were things we had to proceed to get to know before I knew what a love language was. My boyfriend's top score was actually quality time, which technically we were already doing when we started dating back in 2010. Oh my gosh, that was so long ago. But learning, how to be more involved with my level of cleanliness was a process. When he was allowed to come over, to my parents' house and all of that, he realized like, oh, this lady right here, she's clean, she's very organized. And it was just something that, he had to learn along the way. Like, not that my room was perfect, but it had to, for mental clarity and for me to work well, I just needed my space to be organized. And that's something, that that he had to learn along the way. And over time, he started to, help around, my parents' house when he, stayed over, just because, that sense of neatness was very important to me. So before I even knew what a love language was, it was definitely important to communicate to my partner, like, hey, I like things a certain way, or it would be great if, I value, help in or assistance in these things versus the other love languages, which is like gift giving or such. Acts of service was more important for me. But here we are 13 years later, and he gets it. I want to go into a little bit of a deep dive, though, with this love language. My only problem with this love language is that while it's great, it deconstructs a lot of things that most women had to do from back then when we were deemed, taking on job roles, plus, also doing the work at home, taking care of the children. So when I see the love language of acts of service, it's like, we should keep in mind that you are in a relationship, or even with friendships, or the people that you work with, you have to keep in mind, like, hey, we're all in this space together, we're all adults, let's try to split up the work and not have one person do more work than another, because not for nothing, but hey, we're human beings, and we can easily get tired by having too many tasks on our hands. So it's definitely good to see in what ways you can balance each other to split up work or errands. And I want to say this reflection came from my own household. Thankfully, I grew up in a household where my father and mother both split the chores. And my father, he cooked for us. My grandmother says that in Peru, they teach the men at a young age how to cook so that they can also help their partners out when they do have, or when they are in relationships. And my father was a great example of what love language or acts of service was, because I always saw him like do something or help my mother out in ways that she needed help in or assistance in, whether it was to transcribe like a letter in English, for her. My mom, she understands English, but speaking Spanish for her is easier, but she does understand it and she does communicate it fairly well, I'll say. But, there were certain things that my dad had to, do when, my parents, first came, to America. And I'm glad that my mom had that support. I'm glad that, both of my parents were an example of acts of service. Just by being in this household, it instilled in me, like, I also want a partner who does the same amount of me as me, or we each find a way to build our relationship through acts of service. So I think that was a very good perspective that I had. Thank you, parents, for being the way that you are, because that definitely instilled in me finding a person that exemplifies that same energy. Your energy attracts like energy. If you're one way, then you're bound to attract that same person that has that same energy as you. If we go back in time, back then it was relied on women to do everything, again, work plus take care of the kids. And things have evolved, obviously, over time. But it's important, to again have these conversations to deconstruct what society has built and implement new ways of being in a relationship with your partners, with your friends. It's putting in place healthy boundaries so that, your partner at the end of the day, your friend, etc., doesn't feel depleted. Got to keep in mind, if that person doesn't want to do the work, or he or she, they don't want to do the work, then that's peace out to them, because you don't need that kind of, oh, I'm not going to do it type of energy in your life. So then moving on, so Jennifer actually shared her results with me, and she also scored acts of service as her top score. And then I was telling her, I'm like, hey, I think this is why me and you work very well, because we, each try to meet each other at a level where we get things done, not only for the podcast, but for our personal things that we are each going through, in both of us respectively in our lives, working on, our businesses. Jennifer just became a mom, so that's a whole new journey and adventure. But, we both exemplify that same energy of like, hey, how can I help you in this way? Or, how can we best support each other to, bring the podcast, to its best ability. So we definitely are a very actionable team here on Presente.
Oh, yeah.
And keep in mind that love languages can also pertain to your work, coworkers, and your friendships too. That's my little analysis on my test result.
I hear that.
Woo, woo.
Hello and good day, everyone. Regardless of where you are or what time it is, if you're listening to this in the morning, night, late night, I wish you a good day. I just want to say that and a bit of the day I had, because by the time you're listening to this episode, it will already be a few days later, and I hope I will be in better spirits. I tend to believe that there are better days ahead. But let me tell you, today I had a day, and I won't drag it the way it dragged me, but it was a lot. To sum it all up, between workload, meetings, interruptions every now and then, and while I do have the privilege of working from home and being with my little assistant, my baby girl, but today, in fact, this entire week has been moving so fast. And like Jissela likes to say, the days are going by so fast at the speed of light. Fast.
Yup.
Facts, girl. I barely had any time to eat or do anything for myself, just to sum it all up. But despite all of that, I'm venting on here because regardless of the hectic day I've had juggling and multitasking so many things, I did find a moment of comfort and joy and just a smile to my face. We recently dropped an episode interviewing Karen Santana. And if you tuned into that episode, it was about romanticizing life. And if you guys have been following our last few episodes, especially now, also in the month of February, we are emphasizing how to self-love and care for yourself and being able to find that silver lining in things, despite the type of day you're having and how it unfolds. Remember, it's those little moments in between, right? So today I was very, very happy to read some messages from our listeners, old listeners and new ones. Welcome to Presente. Thank you so much for supporting us. That really brought a smile to my face, and just being able to talk about it with Jissela. We're very happy and pleased to know that you guys are listening to us, giving us the time of your day and providing feedback and just giving us that support from afar. It really means a lot to us. It really means a lot to me. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart, because it takes a lot to get this podcast going with everything else you have going on in your life. I know I have a lot. So thank you. That leads me to today's topic, which is the 5 love languages and how we are, discovering what those 5 languages are, which ones apply to you and your relationships. So I think it's very interesting because it's all relative, guys. It really is. Not only did those messages from our listeners make me happy, but also I did this quiz with the 5 languages a few days ago. And, it breaks down the type of love language that speaks to you and how you can then understand your partner and your relationships better by identifying these love languages. I took the quiz and I scored higher on acts of services. Jissela did too. I think that's very interesting that we both had like a commonality there. It speaks a lot to our personality, our drive and focus, our goals, and how we like to be treated in return. We're definitely, trying to accomplish things one by one, and we respect that with each other and this podcast. But acts of services is so true and spot on. I do know that some of it comes from past childhood, like, my upbringing, being the oldest sibling, being the big sister, and always kind of just checking in on everyone and how they're doing, and maybe stopping everything I'm doing to help others and be there for them. That acts of services really kind of just put a lot of things into perspective, from my upbringing to how it then carries over to my personal relationships and so forth. And even when it comes to like my career, etc. With the acts of services, you realize that you are someone who takes notice in like actions speak louder than words. Again, I am someone who will be there for you, help in need if I can, just the kind of person that I am. And even in my relationship, it's interesting to know how we balance each other out, split chores and tasks and bills and parenting as well. So I take very much notice of that. I admire that in my partner when he's able to just step up. Even, I don't have to tell him anything. He's very much someone who just takes the reign on cooking and doing compra. Compra, for those who are listening, is food shopping. And I let him. He's in his element. He loves food. I love food too. So he kind of just takes over on things like that. And then I will be someone who cleans up a little bit more. And that's just an example on how we balance each other out when it comes to certain chores and tasks. And I think it's very important that in relationships you have that, whether it's like a personal relationship you have with your partner or even in your friendships. There should always be some type of balance, and there should also be an understanding that people communicate differently. And that is totally fine. And it is up to us to kind of realize that and understand it ourselves, because many times we get frustrated or we think, hey, this is not going to work, or this is not the one, this is not the person, the thing, whatever. And it's just because, we're just set up differently. So take a note of that. I highly recommend taking the quiz for fun, just to whether you're in a relationship or not. I'm sure, there has to be some type of other relationships you're in, amongst your friends, amongst your families, your colleagues. So I say, look into this quiz, take it. It's only a few minutes of your time, and spread the word. Maybe then it can be of an eye-opener and an understanding for others as well. On another note, aside from the 5 love languages, there's also another book for those who are in relationships or relationships or situationships. There is another book that I do recommend. It is called Love and Respect: The Love She Most Desires, the Respect He Desperately Needs. It is a book by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs. And in this book, it pretty much just brings it all together in terms of how, women, respond better to like love and affection and promises, and men love and understand differently through respect and, in the format in which certain things are being said and communicated. Just to give perspective when it comes to the different sexes. And if you want to know a little bit more on how you can help yourself and help your relationships, this is just another alternative book that you can also look into. It does come in a book format, and there is a book that has also a quiz in it as well as a note section. So all in all, fundamental book that you can actually, write in and take a few quizzes. So I recommend that as well. But all in all, guys, please understand that when it comes to communicating, it's not just how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? Also, body language, that's another form of communication. Understanding your person's love language is essential, just so that, you can understand who you're with, understand the reason behind certain things and habits and acts. The 5 love languages, as well as the Love and Respect book, these are just fundamental ways to get you to just understand a little bit more, a little deeper on how to love one another, plain and simple. I highly recommend. Take the quiz. It's fun, and share it.
Well said.
Why your love language is important.
Understanding your love language is to help enhance your relationship with others and yourself. By understanding each other, you'll have a better sense of how to express yourself to your partner, and same from them to you. Writer Gary Chapman focused on couples who thought that they were falling apart in their marriage or in their relationships, but then realized that wasn't the case for some. They just didn't understand each other's love languages. Once it was realized how each partner communicated, the relationship started to improve back to where the love stemmed from or evolved along the way. So these are reasons why understanding your love language is important. We each speak a different love language.
It's Black History Month. Let's continue to show love and support.
The first creator I want to give a shout out to is actually a creator named Nyan. She is a super talented makeup artist and model who shows others different ways of posing in front of a camera. And recently, she's been creating these really cool Sims like videos on showing people how she wears her makeup in like a mermaid style, 1920 style on Instagram and on TikTok, or get readies with me's. I really like it because she not only does it in a very aesthetically pleasing way, but she also adds a little bit of ASMR to those videos. Her style is super cool, and I love how she expresses herself with her clothes, her hair colors, and bold makeup. Nyan girl, stay unique. Another Black creator that I would love to give a shout out to, known as Iniko. Iniko is a gifted singer and lyricist who has inspired many on TikTok through their music. They are popular for songs like The King's Affirmation, Jericho, and then the newest hit, Armor. Their music has a way of pulling you to an otherworldly place that also makes you feel empowered and like magic. They are true to themselves in a society that likes to label everything and everyone. So shout out to those two Black content creators. Keep staying unique and magical.
Lastly, shout out to Frenchie, also known as Francois Nicholas. He is a host, producer, digital content creator. You can find him on Instagram at Go Frenchie. Cool guy. You will see him doing what he does best, from New York to LA, just amplifying the crowd, hyping it up, to even interviewing some of your top celebrities and athletes. Big shout out to you. I recently saw Frenchie working the red carpet at the Grammys. That was amazing. Really cool stuff. So happy for you. Happy that you are pursuing your dreams. So dope. Much success to you. I actually had the privilege of meeting Frenchie about 10 years ago when I was interning at Dykeman Basketball. Shout out to Dykeman. And Frenchie was there, again, hyping the crowd up, doing what he does. Come to find out, he's worked with some of the top and well-known companies and teams, from the Knicks to the Rangers. You can actually find him on commercials with some of our favorite brands and snacks. So that's just super cool. Very proud of you and all your success. He is a media mogul in the making. Continue to do what you do best. Big shout out to you. Thank you for tuning in to our segment on the 5 love languages. If you'd like to learn furthermore on this topic, here are some of the recommended resources we mentioned. The 5 Love Languages: How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate by Gary Chapman. You can find out your love language by taking an easy online quiz at 5lovelanguages.com. Love and Respect: The Love She Most Desires, the Respect He Desperately Needs by Dr. Emerson Edgerich. And a happy Valentine's Day to all of our listeners. However you spend it, may it be filled with love.